Welcome to Secrets of the Stars, where we explore the ancient knowledge of astrology, decode your unique blueprint, and unveil how the wisdom of the sky contributes to your life. I'm your host, Abby Lutis, astrologer, mentor, and sky guide. It's time to embark on a cosmic adventure of self-discovery and understanding why you are the way you are. Let's dive in. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets of the Stars. I am so glad to be back. I am currently in between some house sitting gigs, and I'm staying out in a beautiful place I have discovered called Majimba. It's on the Sunshine Coast, and it's just a little sleepy little nook, which I am really loving. So I am staying out here, and I'm currently surrounded by incredible, feels like rainforest, and I'm very close to the beach, which is a really quiet, cozy little beach, and I'm just loving the energy. So we are currently in week 2 of Starlit Astrology for self-empowerment, and we're taking a deep dive into the big 3. And what I love about this course is if you have never had a natal chart reading, and some of the women haven't, they are coming in, and it's really an incredible deep dive into their natal chart. So I'm so excited seeing all the revelations that they're having and the aha moments and just what they're learning in this course. It's so incredible to see other people lit up and so inspired by, really tapping into their own unique natal chart and their unique astrology. So that's been really cool. I have been working pretty consistently on my health, I must say. I've been finally establishing a routine. I am going to the spin bike classes, which I'm pretty sure I've talked about on here, and also doing strength. And I am feeling so good in my body. I'm feeling so energized. There's nothing better than moving your body in a way that just feels so good. So that's a little update on where I'm at, but let's jump into the episode now, because today I'm going to be taking a look at some of the history in astrology. Now, the history of astrology is, you could dedicate days and days and days to a podcast. So I am really doing a brief overview or short snapshot, a summary. But one thing that I find so fascinating about astrology is that it has been around for so long. It has been practiced since the dawn of time, and it's not a fad, right? There are so many reasons why it is still around today, and that is one of the reasons why I love using this incredible tool, because it is just been practiced for so long. There's so much evidence, there's so much knowledge and history and understanding and different ways of interpreting and different techniques that have been derived from different eras. So that's what I'm going to be taking a look at today. This is not going to be a deep dive into the history, because we would be here for so long. But this is kind of like a short, sharp overview just to give you an understanding of the depth of this incredible ancient tool, astrology. So astrology really dates back many thousands of years. And my personal belief is that it was used in times of ancient civilizations such as Lemuria, Atlantis, and ancient Egypt. And, while that's my personal belief and my thoughts, the earliest evidence of astrology's origin come from ancient Mesopotamia in the era that was 3000 to 2001 BC. This is the era of, the astrology's first noted, where they actually have evidence of astrology being practiced. Now, this period of time corresponds to the early to middle Bronze Age, if you're a history buff, so you will be able to know when that is. I am not, but I am slowly learning the more I learn, and I learn through astrology, which I love. And from this ancient Mesopotamian astrological time, the Bronze Age, the Middle Bronze Age, Astrology spread to India. It was westernized in Greek civilizations, and it was also believed to be practiced in simultaneously in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and Persia. Okay, and the history of astrology is long and deep and vast. And what I know is that astrologers watched the sky. They tracked significant alignments that correlated with Earth events. Because back in those days, we didn't have as many things to keep us occupied, like TVs and technology and so on. And so of an evening time, that's what they did. So this is my short summary and timeline of astrology's history. So let's have a look. So we'll start off in that era, the 3rd century BC, which is this ancient Mesopotamian astrology. And this is where astrologers were watching the skies. They were reporting auspicious appearances and disappearances, things like eclipses, things like planets conjunctions, planets aligning, and they believed that these were messages of the gods and that they were written out in the movements of the heavenly bodies, all right? Because this was a long, long time ago. So this is what astrology of ancient Mesopotamia comprised of. Then we move on to the 2nd century BC to the 7th century. And this is the era of Hellenistic astrology. And this is where horoscopic astrology came along. So this was horoscopic astrology is whereby a chart is calculated at a moment of birth or a certain moment in time. So in order to interpret a meaning of that time, we need the certain time frame of when something happened, a birth, an event, whatever it was. And this was said to be handed down by the Babylonians and the Egyptians, okay? This wasn't a practice that everyone had access to. It was reserved for royalty, and it was really only the kings and queens that would have their own personal astrologers. So this was a pretty interesting time because, you know, a moment in time, a location in time as a snapshot, grabbing the energy and the energies of the skies and the planets and the map and where they were in the sky, and then creating a chart or a reading that is reflecting what those energies represent. So then we move on to the 7th to 15th centuries, and this is the medieval astrology era, all right? So we're starting to get a little bit closer. It doesn't feel so far away from where we are now. But this was an ancient medieval astrology was an ancient astrological practice that looked at the movements of the planets and the stars to determine future events. And this was said to be rediscovered in the Arabic world and spread to Egypt. So again, this wasn't a practice that everyone did. It was reserved for royalty, kings and queens, and they would have their own personal astrologers. And so now, instead of just taking a snapshot of a moment in time, astrology was being used to interpret something in the future. And they're looking at, the energies of a moment and the energies that were upcoming when they could start to understand what the planets, what the luminaries were doing in the sky. Because perhaps by this stage, there was enough evidence to see what had happened in the past, and so predictions could be made for the future, essentially. Then we move up to the 12th to 17th century, and this is the period of the Renaissance astrology. So this was a time when using astrology could be done for almost anything, kind of in a way like now, right? So predictions for people about their future. It was used about in regards to investments and what we now call financial astrology, medical astrology. Astrology was being used in relation to the body, and even to predict the weather, which is pretty incredible, I must say. One thing that is really interesting about the 17th century is this was the time period when astrology was separated from astronomy. So back in time, astrology and astronomy were one and the same thing, which I really see this because I use a lot of, I draw a lot from astronomy and I incorporate it in my astrological practice. Okay. I have been working as a tour guide and get to sleep out under the stars. I've been doing this for the last 3 years and watching the planet movements and watching the sky every night when I go to bed and learning about the sky from an astronomy point of view. And to be honest, like there are so many correlations with astrology, and that's why I sort of see that it is this interwoven thing, which I truly believe is the case. But astronomy, the scientists, the scientific people, the scientific astronomy wanted to move away from astrology. And the reason being is that this was the time where it was discovered that we lived in a Hellenistic solar system and everything revolved around the sun. Prior to this, it was thought that we were living in a geocentric system where everything was thought to revolve around Earth. And so this was what split this is one of the things that split astronomy from astrology, is that because people thought that everything wasn't revolving around us, and by us I mean Earth, that it really didn't have as much weight. But the thing that I believe is that we live on Earth and we see things from Earth's perspective. So really, from our perspective, the sun is revolving around us, even if technically it's not. We see it that way from our perspective. So this really brought in the skeptics about astrology, and I could take a deep dive into this astronomy debate, I suppose, in another episode. But just to know that this happened in this Renaissance era where astrology was being used for anything and everything, and new techniques were being developed and really practiced in so many areas. Then we move on to the 17th to 19th century, and this is known as the late traditional astrology. And this was really a time that encompasses the main types of astrology that were practiced in the past, all the things that I have mentioned. So you might start to hear about traditional and modern astrology. And traditional astrology relates to astrology that was practiced up until the time frame where the outer planets were discovered. First was Uranus, then Neptune, then Pluto. And when they came into play, that was when telescopes came along, right? Because we can't actually see them with the naked eye. And so when we discovered these planets, this was the time that we then started to use what is now known as modern astrology. Traditional astrology incorporates everything prior to this point of being able to see past Saturn, I suppose. So when we're thinking of traditional astrology, it really goes out to the planets that we can see with our naked eye. Now, I know some people, it is believed that they can see Uranus with their naked eye, but I haven't yet to experience that. It's definitely a challenge. So if you're hearing about traditional astrology, that is astrology that really uses all the planets out until Saturn and stops there. It doesn't incorporate Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Then we move into the era that we are currently in right now, and this is the rebirth, and this is in the 20th century and beyond, and known as modern astrology. So modern astrology incorporates the outer planets that were later found by astronomers, and this astrology gained popular support through mainstream media, because it was when horoscopes started to come out, and it was really this time of pop astrology. Pop astrology is, like popular astrology, and mostly comes back to horoscopes and star signs, or what we can call them as sun signs. And this is, I actually think that pop astrology has a significant place in astrology because it is really the introduction to most people with regards to astrology. I mean, I can remember when I was a little girl opening up and reading my horoscope, right? And this is what got me intrigued. Yes, we can't put everything into 12 signs. That we know now that there is so much more to astrology, but this is a gateway, I suppose, for people who are interested in astrology, because it really does start with something like reading a horoscope or knowing your star sign. So astrology has really become popular again in the 60s, when we started seeing all this astrology and horoscopes coming into media, coming into newspaper columns, into magazines. This was kind of like this rebirth of astrology. Nowadays, we are diving even deeper, and it's interesting to see what is going on in astrology and how this correlates. But people are diving into this subject as if it's a little bit more normal, a little bit more mainstream, which is so incredible to see. But now a lot of people, if you talk to them about astrology, they will know their big three energies, which is not just their sun sign, but their moon sign and rising sign. And it's interesting when I do readings at the market to see the younger generation. Everyone knows their big three. Everyone knows their birth time, and astrology is almost like normal. Whereas sometimes when many times I have people come for readings and they love astrology and they're open to it, but more often than not, it's the older generation that might not be as open or understanding or know so much about astrology, and they might not even know their birth time, unfortunately. So this era is that we are currently in this beautiful rebirth and this modern astrology. Now, I really think that there is so much less stigma nowadays, and there are so many people that have open minds when it comes to astrology. I feel like it's really becoming even more mainstream. It's coming less like strange as it was in the past. So I think people are really curious. They're starting to want to know more about themselves, learn from different points of view. And so this is why astrology is having this, great resurgence of this time. So as you can see, even with this brief run through, astrology's history is rich. It's long, it's deep, it's vast. Astrologers watched the sky. They tracked alignments that correlated with Earth back in the day, where, that's all they really had to do. So it is so incredible to be able to use a tool that has such depth and such long history and such varied, different ways that you can go and different ways that you can use this incredible tool. So the more I learn about the history, the more curious I get, because at the beginning I mentioned that, it's been practiced since the dawn of time. Now, there are not many modalities that have the same history as that, okay? So that's what I love about astrology. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and please let me know your feedback in the comments below. And if you're interested in booking a reading with me or picking up one of my 2024 reports, there is still so much valuable information you can gain from that. Please go to my website, www.abbylutis.com. And until next time, keep shining bright. Thank you for joining me on this cosmic journey of self-discovery. If you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with someone who you think would love it. Keep exploring the secrets of the stars, and remember, the universe has woven a unique story just for you. Until next time, keep shining bright.